Good evening, my friends. This evening, I've got a couple of characters for you, and a nice fresh face here. So anyhow, these will be our targets, okay? But I wanted to show you something about drawing. Now, if you're, let's see if I can do this, line it up. Okay, now if your arrow tip is pointing at the target right there, as I draw, I find my arrow comes back and it goes up, and as I'm putting my thumb in behind my ear, so I go past the ear and then forward. So if it's lined up and I go past the ear and forward, as it goes forward like that, you see how it's going forward? That's when I line up to the target. Okay? So that's a big deal. Again, the tip will be on the target, the back is not. As it goes back and around, and my hand is going forward to anchor behind my ear, I line it up now. It goes forward straight now. Anyhow, that's a big deal. And we'll come back and take a couple shots. Back in a minute, boys. Okay, my friends. Something that's been noticed is that my elbow is often quite low. It's true. When I relax my right arm, my arm hangs down, so I don't bother to raise it. My high anchor makes my elbow seem lower. If my anchor was down here, my elbow would seem more level. If it's up here, it looks low. Same spot for the elbow. We want to aim when our hand is going forward behind the ear. You know, so that's what we want to do. We want to drop back, put the tip right on the center, draw back, and as we draw back, we want to see that little arrow tip or back, going around behind our ear and then going forward as we aim. Okay? And when you do that, you take your time, relax your hand, you'll get your hits. Okay, boys. Back in a minute. Okay, my friends. I'm going to take a few shots with a wooden arrow. A friend had them made for me about a year or two ago, and I hardly use them. But I thought I'd try them out this evening. They seem to be working great. If I can remember his name, I'll mention it. Or if he knows who I'm talking about, say hi. It's a shorter arrow than my carbon arrow, so there's a tendency to aim high because of the shortness of the arrow. Anyhow, these are Port Orford Cedar. Got parabolic feathers at the back. They're spined for about 45 to 50, 125 grain points. They seem to work pretty good. Again, I find that wood will bend. You have to straighten it once in a while, these types of things. But, you know, our ancestors used it for 50,000 years. If you have a nice fan who sends you a few nice arrows, well, you know, you can get your hits, no problem. They work just fine. Back in a minute. Okay, my friends. So shooting those wooden arrows for the first time in quite a while, I stumbled on my old Bodkins, my medieval arrows, tied on feathers, you know, bodkin points. So I thought maybe I'll take a few shots with that. Haven't done that for a long time. And then of course I started to realize, you know, you could do all kinds of things with these arrows, especially the ones that haven't got a point on them yet. I've got all kinds of points, you know, that you can make your own arrows, all kinds of different points. So that's kind of a blast, and isn't that neat? You know? They look great anyhow, and one's for cutting up the sails or taking the heads off birds and stuff like that. But anyhow, that's just a little bit on the arrow, so you know, let's stop talking about them and go shoot a couple. Back in a minute. Okay guys, now let's take a couple of shots with our medieval arrows. Our modern ancient arrow. Basically, they shoot just the same as modern arrows. I was wandering around that time, but it's right on his nose. There we go. This arrow comes from Europe. It's northern pine. It's a very straight-grained wood, and of course we've put on the bodkins. But this arrow would be perfect, you know, if you put on modern blunts. Perfect, you know. And so I'm enjoying shooting it, and I've cut these down. These are 28 inches long, a standard length, 28 inches. And they're spined for 50 pounds. And you can see that if you take your time, like I was doing, and pausing to make sure I was on, but you can see I was on, right on his nose. So that's just as good as it gets. The arrows work fine. Medieval arrows work fine. Back in a minute. Okay guys, bodkin time. It seemed to be shooting just fine, really. I think that split the whiskers on his chin. Yeah, these arrows are a little bit heavier than the others. I actually weighed them. They're about 25% heavier than my carbon arrows. you know, they work. You just have to get used to them a little bit. But anyhow, I do find that the wooden arrows, though they're heavier, and they're a little, not quite as straight. This guy has a bit of a bend that way, but they still work pretty good, and it's just fun to do something different for an evening. And we can see that even though I have to hold slightly higher, you know, we're getting our hits on them. That's all that really matters. Okay, back in a minute. Okay, guys. So the thing that we're talking about, because we're only talking about one thing at a time these days, so it's not confusing, but it's drawing past your ear and then allowing your hand to be pulled forward while you're lining up the arrow at the same time. Smash the camera, Gare. And I bopped him. There's a trade-off in space and whacking the camera. Let's see if I can get away from you. I'll just move the camera. Okay, guys. Bodkin time. Pretty warm here. It won't be long though. It won't be warm here. I'd say that northern pine is an excellent arrow wood. Yeah, I'd say that with this this arrow wood, is very straight grained. I suppose you can't really see it, but I can see the parallel lines going right down the shaft. So that's very, very good. And of course, the feathers look neat. You know, this one I've repaired with a modern knock, but anyhow, I do find that they're fine, and I guess that's enough for tonight. I just wanted to take a couple of shots and start fooling around and digressed with some wooden arrows. But, yeah, anyhow, you can see that, there we go. You can see that we're bopping them just fine. Nothing wrong with those arrows. Nice groups. Anyhow, guys, have a good night. Have fun. I'll talk to you later. Bye now.